intelligent talk that's sure to raise the IQ.
Here's Guy Wehman, Ben Brunson, and Frank Vernuccio inside the news.
Welcome back to our next segment of Inside the News. And typically this is our international segment, but we're going to keep this pretty much domestic along the way here just because the election is so close. Frank Vernuccio, he's with us here. Ben Brunson, my name's Guy Wehman. Frank, top left, Ben in the bottom middle. Okay, Ben, you want to talk about the Senate races, and this is very, very important. Go.
Well, of course, the main election coming up is the presidential race, but the Senate is in the balance. And this is something that I expressed concern over a couple of months ago. And there's still concern about it with regards to the Republican ability to hold the Senate. It's looking doubtful, frankly, at this point, when you look at the key races and the key matchups. Some have turned favorable for the Republicans, but there are a couple that look pretty problematic. And of course, the Republican majority is razor thin. There was much debate about Mitch McConnell, whether he could hold his seat. It looks like he's going to be reelected. I'd say the same for Lindsey Graham. There was a lot of discussion. A very attractive candidate, Jamie Harrison, was running against him. But I think Lindsey Graham's going to win re-election pretty easily. There are a handful of other seats, though. Martha McSally in Arizona versus former astronaut Mark Kelly. It looks like Mark Kelly is going to win that race. Martha McSally has not been able to close the gap. And some of the recent polling shows a pretty solid lead for Mark Kelly. He is an attractive candidate. So that looks to be a Democratic pickup. In North Carolina, the race that may be the decisive race, Tom Tillis fighting for his life against Cal Cunningham, a veteran. Looked like Cal Cunningham was going to eke out a victory there until his issue with having extramarital affairs has boiled to the surface. And it now is clear that he has multiple affairs in his recent past. And that, makes it a toss-up at this point. I still don't say it's a given that Tom Tillis is going to win that seat. He has not been a particularly popular senator in North Carolina, but I would say the odds are probably leaning in his favor. So that's one to watch. And then we have to go, of course, to Susan Collins and her fight for survival. She has been trailing Sarah Gideon, the Democrat, consistently throughout the fall, and she still trails in the polls. Susan Collins has never embraced Donald Trump. She's kept her distance, and that has really, I think, hurt her in the end, because all of the fervent Republican base that loves Donald Trump around the country, and you see it everywhere. If you watch this weekend, Donald Trump flew into L.A., and in L.A., of all people, in Orange County, California, thousands and thousands of people line the streets. I've never seen anything like what you see in terms of the support. It's far beyond what existed 4 years ago. The rallies are bigger and more intense, and happening all over the country, Long Island, Los Angeles, places you wouldn't expect. But Susan Collins has not been able to tap into that because she maintains that distance, that independence. And the latest iteration of that is she has been unclear and leaning against voting for Amy Coney Barrett for confirmation, which would be a disastrous move on her part, because Amy Coney Barrett is so deserving of, so qualified for her seat, she should get all the votes.
All right, let's turn to Frank here, because, Ben, you could have kept on going for the rest of the show, and as can Frank as well. Frank, this is very important, and I agree with Ben 100% about Susan Collins. She was never wanting to embrace Donald Trump, and yet that could be a real pitfall for her.
Yeah, of course, the reason for Trump's success, both in 2016 and I believe prospectively in this election as well, is that he's not part of the regular Republican establishment. He actually was going to do what he promised to do in this campaign. Ben's point about Orange County, California is really important. If you've noted the desperation of California Democrats to engage in every form of illicit voting practices, whether it's giving driver's licenses to illegals, whether it's in ballot harvesting, it's because I believe that the Democrats of California have internal polls indicating that they are tremendously weakened by their own maladministration of their state. But let's look at Senate races throughout the country and why, one of the reasons why the Democrats look to gain considerably. And it has to do with how failure succeeds for the Democrats. In states like California, New York, and Massachusetts is a fascinating case study. Local Democrat governments have failed their states tremendously. And people from places like Boston and Los Angeles and San Francisco have, in disgust at the way their states being run by liberal Democrats, moved out of those states and into places like Nevada, New Hampshire, Maine. Despite the fact that they left bad liberal politics behind, they tend to vote the same way they voted back in their home states. And so New Hampshire, once a solidly rock-ribbed Republican state, is turning more Democratic. You're seeing the same thing in Nevada, where there's an increased strength in the Democratic Party. Nothing succeeds like failure for the Democrats, particularly in these Senate races. Also, we have to draw a distinction between a House and Senate race and a presidential race. A presidential race is based on issues for the most part. A House or Senate race is based on something totally different. Frankly, the view of a congressman or a senator on great national issues is secondary to whether, when a constituent called up his congressman or a senator, did he do the right thing by them? Did he fix their problem? Did he get their son an entry into West Point or Annapolis or the Air Force Academy? So it's a very different type of thing. And one thing the Democrats have always done very well is local politics. So it's going to be somewhat counterintuitive that in a year where I agree with Ben that Donald Trump is going to do very well, you still might see gains for the Democrats in the Senate.
All right, we're going to take a time out here. This is Inside the News, Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio. That was Frank Vernuccio. He's with the American Analysis of News and Media and also the Minute Report for America. You can find more about Frank at usagovpolicy.com. Ben Brunson, he's the author of the Falstaff, Enigma, and Esther, Sling, two great books, good holiday presents and good reads. And you can find those at amazon.com and benbrunson.com. And my name's Guy Wehman, and we just kind of hang out together here. But the fact is, we go inside the news. We're glad that you are with us. There's more to come. We'll be back.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.